Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Brandon B Show. In this video, I want to talk about the opportunity of a lifetime. And I know I'm kind of probably maybe sounding a little bit like a YouTuber here, which is pretty cringe, but it's justified because in this video, I want to let you guys in on a little secret. I want to tell you guys how I plan to turn $10,000 into $1 million in this upcoming crypto bull market that's likely to begin sometime roughly 2025. Take a look at our channel here. You can see in the background I have a couple of cryptocurrencies here. This one says 10K to 1 million. So when Pulse Chain launches, I might as well just tell you, I'm going to invest 10K into Pulse Chain, folks. If we look at what Pulse Chain is a faster, cheaper version of Ethereum. And if we kind of look at what its competitors have done, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, AVAX, Polkadot, BNB, what they've done from the ICO to their all-time high price, we can see several thousand X growth. This ain't percent growth, folks. This is X growth. So imagine if you had invested $10,000 and we asked Google what that is by the average X growth of Pulse Chain's competitors here.
The answer is 39,540,000.
So, folks, you know, I'll be investing this 10K into Pulse Chain when it's out, so it's not the ICO price. But now, I'm going to be honest, folks, I think it's far more helpful to have a conservative outlook and be pleasantly surprised if you're wrong, rather than have, you know, this super high expectation and be upset if it doesn't happen. In my opinion, 50x to 100x, I think, is somewhat realistic for a lot of people getting in the first month, first quarter of Pulse Chain being out. Not financial advice, I could be wrong. I'm pulling that out of my ass, I don't know. But my point is, folks, one of the most consistent winners in this market has been Ethereum competitors, layer 1 smart contract blockchains. And the next major high-quality one where you can get in early is Pulse Chain. There's really fucking nothing out there that even comes close. I've been looking at these markets for years. Nothing comes close. Because, folks, there's so many good ideas out there. But what all these ideas are lacking is a community. There's a fervent community of Hex users just waiting, hundreds, tens of thousands, waiting to use the Pulse Chain. I believe there's 130 some odd projects being built on Pulse Chain already. There's a massive community of developers, a massive treasure chest. I believe there was just like $1.6 billion sacrificed between Pulse Chain and PulseX. So there's so much money backing this. A massive community waiting to use this. A massive group of developers, plus all Ethereum users are getting airdropped existing versions of their coin on the Pulse Chain network. I mean, folks, anyone who realizes this isn't a big deal is frankly a moron. And I know there are some so-called crypto experts who happen to know a thing or two about crypto but are allowing their prejudices to blind them and not see the opportunity here with Pulse Chain, because some people have some kind of bias towards Richard Heart. But fuck that, folks. I mean, Richard Heart blocked me personally on Twitter, but I'm not going to allow my ego and my hurt feelings get in the way of me making a shit ton of money and communicating a potential, you know, opportunity here of a lifetime to my audience. Because, folks, part of the reason why I'm making this channel is because, yeah, I want to get rich myself, but I also want bragging rights, and I also want to go to bed every night thinking, you know, I probably helped a dozen people, 100 people, couple hundred people, a couple thousand people do something similar. Now, I know not everyone's going to go from broke to a millionaire, but folks, I mean, you know, if you invest a couple hundred, couple thousand, how do you get a couple extra $1,000, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Well, you might not be able to retire on an extra couple $100,000, but I bet you for a lot of people, you know, most people are living paycheck to paycheck. Having a little bit of extra income is 100% helpful, even if you can't retire on it. So that's what I'm aiming to do here with this channel. That's why when Pulse Chain goes live, I'm selling every fucking possession I have, everything not nailed to the boards. I mean, I'm going to be breaking down my walls and taking out the copper and selling it for Pulse Chain, folks. I mean, I'm not that far away from being serious. When Pulse Chain comes out, I plan on selling my car, literally everything I own that I can sell, and so I will do so and put 10K into Pulse Chain for this challenge to basically see if I can get 100x, if I can turn 10K into $1 million. So, folks, like and subscribe if you want to see, if you want to follow my progress and you want to follow my journey. Additionally, I also want to admit that I sacked for another challenge 10K into the PulseX sacrifice phase. So it'll also be interesting to track that 10K sack for the Pulse XAC price phase, and also this 10K dollar cost average into Pulse Chain when Pulse Chain goes live. So it'll be interesting to see kind of which 10K gets me to a million first, because there's some argument that the layer 1 smart contracts blockchain outperform the main decentralized exchange of the ecosystem. But there's some kind of different tokenomics here, and so it'll be interesting to see what outperforms what, the 10K Pulse XAC or the 10K dollar cost average when Pulse Chain is live. Stay tuned, like and subscribe to find out. Now, folks, I do want to admit that there's a great deal of unknowns when it comes to Pulse Chain. We still don't know what the liquidity situation is going to be like. We don't even know for sure what the tokenomics, max supply, inflation, and deflation is going to be. I mean, we're assuming certain things. People in the community are assuming certain things. But we have not heard a lot of very tangible updates from Richard Hart in regards to Pulse Chain in months. There's been a lot of changes. Originally, it was going to be a Binance Smart Chain fork. Now we're in ETH 2.0 fork. And the tokenomics and a lot of how Pulse Chain is going to be structured has still not yet been 100% clarified. So the community has been making certain assumptions as to how Pulse Chain is going to work, but we actually don't know for sure until the founder, Richard Hart, gives us an update. So trying to make price predictions at this early a point where we don't even understand the tokenomic situation, we don't even understand the liquidity provider situation, we don't even know what price Pulse Chain is going to launch at, is, I think, really, really, really premature. The way I like to think about price predictions is the following. Is by number one, folks, understanding the market cycle. Understanding that all of cryptocurrency is correlated to Bitcoin to varying degrees, okay? And the way Bitcoin in the market has historically moved is that we essentially operate on somewhat, roughly speaking, of a 4-year boom and bust cycle, where every 4 years the amount of Bitcoin being produced gets cut in half, which leads to a supply shock, which leads to a parabolic bull run that's ultimately unsustainable, where we have an inevitable overcorrection because markets oscillate in between extremes, overbought extremes to oversold extremes, where we have a catalyst every 4 years that kickstarts the fork run up. And so the next Bitcoin halving is March 2024. And if we look at the way Bitcoin has behaved in the past, Bitcoin roughly peaks out, somewhat roughly speaking, a year after the latest Bitcoin halving. This is not perfect. This is very rough. There's also some arguments for a lengthening cycle. So what I'm trying to get at here, folks, is that if Bitcoin does indeed operate somewhat roughly the way it has in its past, we could probably see, a Bitcoin starting to reach some kind of bull run during the year 2025. Probably around some 2026, 2027 is when we have the bear market. These things are very difficult to predict because, again, we don't know if we're going to be in a state of quantitative easing, tightening, if it's going to be a global war, if there's going to be massive stimulus. We don't know the macroeconomic situation come 2025, and so it's difficult to predict some kind of peak. But we do know that based off the way we've operated in the past, it's somewhat likely that 6 months to a year after the latest Bitcoin halving, next Bitcoin halving is March 2024, that there's going to be some kind of euphoric period with Bitcoin and the rest of the greater market. So instead of waiting for arbitrary price predictions with Pulse Chain, 100x, 1000x, 10,000x, for me, folks, it's far better to be conservative, hope for a 20x, 30x, 50x. And if you're surprised with 100x or 1000x, then great. But if you're waiting for that 10,000x and you only get 1000x, well, you might be disappointed, or you might not even take profits during the right time. For me, I'm going to be looking to take profits sometime 6 months to a year after the next Bitcoin halving. March 2024 is the next Bitcoin halving. Now, that's very, very rough. I will be personally using different kinds of technical analysis to get that window far shorter and to try and benefit from a greater part of the parabola. I want to try and sell as close to the top as possible. I've actually come up with a handful of indicators that I think can give me a very, very good shot of timing the next top pretty close. Not perfectly, but I think pretty goddamn close. So, folks, I'm actually working on a course in the background. Who knows when I'll put that thing out because it's a lot of work. But at some point, I'll be putting out a course where I share all these ideas on how I plan on trying to call the next crypto top as best I can. It is not a perfect strategy, but it is a rational, thought-out thesis for attempting to get as close as possible. So, folks, if you like all those ramblings, please do not forget to like and subscribe. Check out this video breaking down Famous.io and this one breaking down Power City. Until next time, take care, folks.
I miss the old Kanye, straight from the gold Kanye, chop up the soul Kanye, set on his goals Kanye. I hate the new Kanye, the bad mood Kanye, the always rude Kanye, spaz in the news Kanye. I miss the sweet Kanye, chop up the beats Kanye. I gotta say, at that time I like